behalf of the Greens, Ms. Ska-Keller.
Thank you. Past Sunday will be remembered as a sad day, and I think not just in Spain, but all over Europe. We saw peaceful citizens confronted with a huge police force, ready to use all the force they had. Families, pensioners, really people of all backgrounds who were confronted with a state that was willing to use almost all means to stop the referendum from taking place. The world was watching while this was happening, while the riot police met people with brutality, charging with batons and even firing rubber bullets. Polling stations and hotels, schools and city halls and streets were turned into front lines between national police and its own citizens. And what happened in Spain is unacceptable. I think it will unfortunately also set the image that we all have of the situation for the future. And this was massive police violence against peaceful people, and that was beyond any proportionality. And violence so disproportionate cannot be justified. No buts and no excuses. Whatever you think about the referendum, whatever you think of independence, I think that has to be clear, that violence is not a mean for solving political conflicts.
Welcome to our Catalonia election special. I'm Cameron Archibald and you're watching Broadcasting Scotland. That was Ska-Keller, leader of the Green Group in the European Parliament, speaking about the violence by the Guardia Civil in Catalonia during the 1st of October referendum. Tonight we'll be looking at the results of the Catalan elections and speaking to guests from Catalonia and Spain. Following the independence referendum on the 1st of October, the Spanish government took control over Catalan government and institutions using Article 155 of the Spanish Constitution. Under this controversial act, the Spanish government triggered new elections in Catalonia, expecting to increase the pro-Spain unionist vote. We partnered with Phantom Power Films, who spoke to voters on polling day in Barcelona. Here are some of their reactions.
I'm for independence, like since 2 years ago, I think. Spain is very repressive with our society, with the Catalan people. I have a lot of friends who disagree with me, but yeah, I think the young people is more with this movement than the other one.
I have always been independentist since I was 15. I come from a family that all the family were Republican and independentists from the beginning. For me, it's kind of strange that after so many years being independentists, now we are majority. It's amazing. We were residual there. It depends on the polls and it depends on the surveys. It's around 48%, 52%, depending on the day, depending on the moment, and depending on the situation. And some people have changed their views since October 1st. Not becoming independentist, but wanting to stop being Spanish. That's a different point. They don't want to be part of a country or a state that beats their own citizens. So some people have changed their minds, not pro-independentist, but anti-Spain. And we don't know what will they vote. We'll see. We'll see. If we lose, will they be able to make a government? Will they pack enough people to make a government? What will happen? Nobody knows. It's the most open election we have seen in the last 20 years.
Hi, Scotland. Big kiss from Catalonia, from Barcelona, my town.
For me, that election is not legal. For me, the legal it was 1 of October when the independence referendum. It's very high. We opened at 9:20 exactly, and it was full. Yeah, we are 3 parties, different parties, but we are together to find same situation, different mentalities about political systems and actuation systems in the government. But our finality is just arrive to the independence, to be a republic. Because we have just one finality. When we arrive to the republic, later we decide who will be our president of the republic. But now we are playing together to arrive to that situation.
I'm from Barcelona, and I am independentist. I think being realistic is going to be hard this time to make this happen, but I think, well, we'll see, but I think we can do something good for Catalonia. I voted the party that they want the, I don't know, unilateral independence, like independence yes or yes. I voted this kind of party, yeah. Because I think we cannot dialogue already. In this point, we cannot dialogue. I think the people in Barcelona is quite calm in this term. Everyone is going to vote and they go to his home, that's all.
The election results turned out to be a spectacular own goal for the Spanish government, with the pro-independence parties winning an overall majority of seats. They are now expected to form a coalition government. On the left-hand side of the first three columns are the pro-independence parties. Their collective vote is 2,063,361. The party of the largest overall vote, with 1,102,099 votes, is the Citizens' Party. They have claimed victory on the basis of being the largest party, despite the combined unionist vote being less than the pro-independence parties at 1,888,223 votes. Including the neutral party vote, neither the pro-independence parties nor the pro-Spain unionist parties can claim an overall majority of the popular vote. The combined total of the pro-independence parties was 47.5%, 4.1% greater than the combined unionist vote at 43.4%. Although this is not an overall majority, the pro-independence parties have claimed this is a mandate to open dialogue with Madrid. Pro-independence parties obtained 70 seats, over the 68 seats needed for an overall majority. I spoke via Skype to journalists in Catalonia and Spain to get reaction to the result. Pilar Aymara is a journalist and blogger from Santiago de Compostela in Galicia. Pilar, thanks very much for joining us today. We'll kick things right off to the heart of the matter. The pro-independence parties have a majority of around 70 seats, with unionist parties taking just over 50. What does this mean overall for the people of Catalonia and the election results today?
Well, things are exactly the same before the election. It means that the pro-Indi parties have enough force and they are entitled to form government. So the strategy from the Spanish government didn't work at all. So the thing is that we have still the same problem, and the Spanish government will have to sit down and negotiate and dialogue with the future Catalan government, because the political problem in Catalonia needs a solution, and Article 155 was not the solution. That's clear.
Yeah.
The pro-Indi parties won the overall majority at the Catalan parliament. They got 47% of votes, and that's not enough. That's not enough for trying again the unilateral declaration of independence from my point of view. But they are definitely entitled to form government.
We saw recently as well the results that the Citizens' Party, which is the biggest party in Catalonia and supports remaining with Spain, is now a new factor as well within the debate, since as they are the biggest party, could this hold back the independence parties coming together, or do you think this will not be a blockade whatsoever?
Well, I'm not sure. The situation is very, very strange at the moment. They try to go in these elections separated. I think it was a mistake. Honestly, I think it was a mistake from Esquerra Republicana. But, well, just the vote was very polarized, and I have no idea what is going on now. It depends on the steps that the Spanish government is going to prepare now, because I just was listening to Mariano Rajoy, he was analyzing the results, and basically what he said is game over, let's start again and again and again. So it depends on the strategy on the Catalan government, on this new Catalan government. Citizens has had all the unionists vote, practically all the unionists vote, and the Popular Party just lost the election. I wonder why.
Well, you talk about the Popular Party losing the election quite badly. Do you think that is a result of the political violence on voters during the referendum, and also as well the political imprisonment of pro-independence politicians?
Well, it's so. Is the policies that they have run during these years, as the Popular Party trying to humiliate the people of Catalonia, as the violence they use, because the ultra right wing in Spain is the Popular Party plus Ciudadanos, citizens, but the Popular Party got the support of the Socialist Party, Partido Socialista, to apply the Article 155, and they felt strong enough to go ahead with whatever they want. And the Popular Party hadn't enough support in other elections in Catalonia. But obviously, the statements by the Vice President Soraya Sánchez Santamaría or the same Pablo Casado, the spokesperson of the Popular Party in Madrid, or the same or Mariano Rajoy himself, didn't help at all.
Right. You argue that Rajoy didn't help much at all as well. But Carles Puigdemont, who is the exiled leader in Catalonia, there's argument that he himself didn't help the situation after the referendum and arguably escalated the situations with tensions between Spain and Catalonia. Do you think there's a possible truth behind this?
Well, the situation of the President Puigdemont is very difficult because, as you well know, there was an international warrant arrest. There's not anymore, but there are still accusations here in Spain. The President Puigdemont just called for Mariano Rajoy to have a meeting anywhere but in Spain. Mariano Rajoy doesn't want to listen anything like that. They just try to keep going the same strategy. So there's also the judiciary in Spain is still with accusations against the President Puigdemont and other leaders. There are still 4 leaders, Catalan leaders, in jail. I guess the state wants to negotiate with that. And Mariano Rajoy said that the separation of powers in Spain, but the separation of powers between the government, the legislative, and the judiciary, according her Vice President Soraya Sánchez Santamaría, don't exist. So next week we'll see more, and we'll see if it's possible to push them on to come back to Barcelona and be the president again. Okay, but we don't know yet because it's very early.
What about the European Union? Because recently we've also seen a lot of support from both sides of the European Parliament for unity in Spain, but also as well condemning the horrible violence from the Spanish state and also supporting Catalonia's right for self-determination. Do you think they'll play a bigger part now, or do you think they'll continue their lack of intervention with the politics of Spain and Catalonia?
Well, I think there was not that lack of intervention. Well, yes, publicly, but I'm sure the violence in Catalonia stopped thanks to some phone calls to Mariano Rajoy. The situation was intolerable. It was disgraceful, embarrassing, and the European Union doesn't want this kind of images in Europe. So I'm sure that Mariano Rajoy called this election because of the pressure from the European Union leaders. So now that the Catalan people have spoken, they have to respect that, and they know, and they will push for a political solution, because there is necessary a political solution.
And another to touch on as well in Scotland, do you believe this will have an impact on Scottish independence and the Scottish independence movement itself? Since a lot of people in Scotland have argued that if Spain can openly attack voters here on having a referendum, then such violence could possibly happen here. Others have disputed that quite clearly and saying it's nonsense. But what do you think? Do you think this has an impact on the movement for Scottish independence?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the support in Scotland for all. We are fighting for our rights in Spain and the freedom of speech and self-determination, not just for Catalonia, but for the Basque Country and also for Galicia. The case of in Scotland is quite different, and your society is absolutely pacific. And in fact, your process during INDIREF was an example for all the entire world. All the process, all the Scottish process, and during INDIREF was the way that everyone should be taking notes, because it was very civic, it was very peaceful, and I don't know, I cannot see this kind of situation in Scotland. I'm sure that your leaders, the First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, and all the political parties, Patrick Harvey, and also all the yes groups, and also the democratic thoughts that you have in Scotland is quite different from the Spanish government, the Popular Party. We cannot compare both situations. You have to understand that the Popular Party is the right wing in Spain. Is the right wing and the ultra right wing in Spain. So they don't believe in self-determination, but also they don't believe in human rights. They don't believe in democracy. They pretend to, but they don't. And I think the situation in Scotland will be quite different. It's difficult indeed because of the Brexit. This discussion now is very, very complicated, but I'm sure the First Minister Nicola Sturgeon will find the peaceful way to get another referendum, and I'm sure you will win this referendum.
Pilar, thanks very much for joining us today on Broadcasting Scotland. Liz Castro is a well-known writer, journalist and activist from Barcelona, who is a long-time supporter of Catalan independence. Liz, thanks for joining us on Broadcasting Scotland. As you're in Barcelona right now, can you please tell us what the mood feels like on the ground?
You know, people are really happy and very determined. We have had to vote over and over and over again to make our voices heard and to tell people that, yeah, this is what we really want, independence. It's perfectly reasonable thing to ask for, and that's what we're asking for. And we voted for it on September 27th. We voted for it on November 9th, 2014. We voted for it on October 1st this past year, even though Spanish police came out and tried to beat us up. And we voted again yesterday, and the pro-independence forces won. So there's, people are pretty excited.
Do you feel there could be a problem with the movement facing a barricade from the Citizens' Party, since the Citizens' Party, which is a pro-Spain party, is now the biggest party in the Catalan parliament?
Well, there are 7 parties in the Catalan parliament, and so the fact that the Citizens' Party won 25% of the vote is not that big a deal. The fact the fact is that it doesn't have enough support to even form a government. In contrast, the independence parties do, and they have 2 larger representations, which are Junts per Catalunya and Esquerra, and then they have a smaller one, which is the CUP, and all 3 together would, form a clear majority in the Catalan parliament. One of the strengths of the Catalan independence movement is that it draws support from many different kinds of political parties. That's, in contrast with, say, the SNP in Scotland, we have a centre-left party, a very left party, and a centre-right party, and that's one of our strengths, the diversity of the representation.
During the referendum in October, what we did see was a lot of state violence from Madrid against voters, and we also followed from that, saw political prisoners. Do you think this had an impact on the election?
Oh, I'm sure it did. People were outraged that the Spanish police attacked peaceful voters on October 1st. It was terrible. It was sad. People really felt let down by Spain. That we knew that Spain didn't want Catalonia to try to become independent, but we didn't think that they would beat us at the polling stations. We didn't think that they would stoop so low. Honestly, and I think that yesterday's result, in which the Spanish government's ruling party lost 8 of its 11 seats and now has only 3. It's the smallest party in the parliament. It doesn't even have enough to have its own parliamentary group. Is a clear message from the people to say, look, we do not want you to come and beat up people at polling stations. We want you to listen to us. So yeah, definitely a clear message and a clear response from the October 1st referendum. People here, they just want to achieve independence in a democratic, peaceful way by voting. It's, in the 21st century, that's something that you should be able to do.
How is the media reporting this in Spain and Catalonia? Is there how are they portraying it? Is this a victory for the pro-independence parties from a media perspective, or from a Spain perspective, do you think people are reporting it in the sense that it's a Spanish victory?
Well, it's certainly, excuse me, it's certainly not a Spanish victory in any sense. It's true that the Ciutadans party won more seats than other parties, but that's, as I mentioned before, that's simply not enough to form a government. So it's kind of it's not a very useful victory.
How would you say the media reporting it in comparison to each other? So in Catalonia, how are the media reporting it compared to the rest of Spain?
So the Catalan media are reporting that independence forces won, and the Spanish media are saying that Ciutadans won. Even as they recognize that she won, Inés Arrimadas and her party won the most number of seats, but they don't have enough strength to form a government. So it's clear that that's not really winning. So the fact that the pro-independence votes were spread across 3 different parties might make it difficult for the media to understand what the results were, but everybody else has it pretty clear. International media, on the other hand, knows exactly what happened. There's not a single picture of Inés Arrimadas that I've seen in the international media, because the international media doesn't care. She's not going to be able to form a government. She basically doesn't exist on the international sphere. What happened was the independence forces, against incredible odds, with their president in exile, with the vice president in jail for ridiculous sedition charges, won the elections with its hand tied behind its back.
So now that we've had this result from the elections, with a pro-independence majority once again being retained in the Catalan parliament, what happens now?
Well, that's a very good question. What would happen now in a rational country would be Spain would say, gee, looks like there's something going on here. Maybe I should talk to the Catalans and see what's going on. Why is it they want to be independent? Can we work out some kind of agreement? What's the problem? But Spain won't do that. In fact, in his first remarks the president of Spain, Mariano Rajoy, already said that he rejected the Catalan president's call for having negotiations, that he would only talk to the president once he became president again, that he should talk to Inés Arrimadas because she won the elections. You know, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's, you know, Spain time and time again doubles down on this authoritarian, non-democratic way of functioning. So what should Catalans do? Well, I think, you know, what they will probably do is appeal to the European and the international communities to say, look, you know, even in these adverse conditions of these elections, we still won. People, the Catalan people, have made their voices heard over and over again. You really have to listen, and you might have to put pressure on Spain, because Spain's actions in this area are creating instability for Europe. It's damaging for Europe. It's damaging for the world. For Spain to be pushing Catalonia, for Spain to be calling independence marches seditious, for it to be cracking down on democratic leaders, putting them in jail. That is a black mark on Europe. That is making Europe look bad, and Europe's leaders should be talking to Spain and saying, back off and come to sit at the negotiating table, because you've got a problem. You don't want to listen to it, you don't want to hear it, but you're going to have to.
Speaking of Europe then, do you feel that during the October referendum, the European Union should have had more interaction or more to say on Spain's actions against the Catalonian people? And as you say, you say that the European Union should be talking more to Spain about this now. Do you think they should go further than this? Because people were arguing that this aggression on Spanish voters was enough to actually give Spain a red card almost, or a yellow card from the European Union.
It should not be okay that Spain sent its police forces to beat up voters and to use tear gas on them in small towns. That is not okay. And the fact that the European Commission had a meeting the following Monday after that October 1st referendum and said, well, you know, this is an internal issue for Spain, and we don't really want to get involved, and you know, this is up to them to solve it however they think, and this is not a disproportionate use of violence, was really, really damaging to the EU's reputation in Catalonia. Catalonia is traditionally very pro-European, and to have Europe look at that violence and say, well, it's not a problem, was really, really upsetting. And I know a lot of people who have traditionally been very pro-EU who now say, what do we need the EU for? What have they ever done for us? We are net contributors. We are upstanding citizens. We follow all of the EU directives. And when we try to have a peaceful, nonviolent referendum and the Spanish police comes and beats us, the European Union looks the other way and says, oh, well, Spain is a member state, so we're not going to do anything about it. That's outrageous. That's not right. And so, yeah, I definitely think that Europe, the European Commission, the European Parliament should be doing a lot more to promote democracy in Spain. It should be doing whatever it can to promote dialogue between the various parties. You know, this needs a political solution. It's not just going to go away because Spain clamps down on independence supporters. It's going to get bigger, which it has done over the past 10 years.
As you may already know, there's an independence movement happening here in Scotland too. Do you think the result in Catalonia changes anything on a wider scale for the independence movement in Scotland? And do you believe as well that it could change the course of what could happen in Scotland? Because others argue that if Spain can openly attack their voters, the same could possibly happen in Scotland. However, we spoke recently to somebody else who argued that actually that wouldn't be the case because British democracy is a bit more uptight, a bit more, you know, kinder, should we say. Do you think then...
I hope so.
Do you think the election results then would have an effect on the independence movement in Scotland?
Well, you know, I think the fact that we won again is encouraging for independence movements in other parts of the world. In Scotland, sure. I mean, I've gotten tons of messages on Twitter from people in Scotland congratulating us on our victory, and I think that gives people energy. It energizes people. It encourages them. You know, if we can mobilize and organize to demand independence, then people in Scotland can also. If we win, when we win, that will also be something that will that could make it easier for other countries to demand their right to self-determination as well. It's in a little bit, excuse me, in a way, it's like opening the door to this right to self-determination, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Carlos Puigdemont, I hope I pronounced his name correctly there, who is the leader in exile in Brussels right now.
Yeah.
Would you think that he could have dealt with the situation a little bit better? Do you think there's fair criticism against him to say that actually this maybe shouldn't have escalated to where it's gone just now?
I'm not sure exactly what else he could have done to not escalate it. Carlos Puigdemont was fulfilling his democratic mandate by holding a referendum. The people asked him to hold that referendum because we didn't feel that we had enough of a majority in the elections of 2015 to go forward with independence. And so we thought the best way to know whether the Catalan people want independence or not is to have a referendum. And he said, okay, we'll have a referendum, a binding official referendum. And that's what he made a commitment to hold on October 1st, and he fulfilled that commitment. Part of that referendum law said that once that referendum was held and once the results were published, the Catalan Parliament was required to declare independence if the vote was a yes vote, and that's what he did. So he's following the Catalan law. Even still, on October 10th, when he first declared independence, he pulled back from that declaration and said, you know what, I've been hearing voices from Europe saying that they're asking us to negotiate, so we're going to suspend that declaration for a little while and give space for that negotiation to happen. And what did Mariano Rajoy do, the president of Spain? He said, no, absolutely not. We will never negotiate. We'll never talk to you. It doesn't matter that 2 million of your people voted for independence on October 1st. We don't recognize it. We think it was illegal, and we'll never, ever, ever talk to you. And in fact, we're going to take over your government, and we're going to dissolve it, even though we don't really have the power to do so. We're going to invent an Article 155 and just use it as a blank check to do whatever we want with the Catalan government. So, what else could Carlos Puigdemont have done? He could have, pulled down his pants. He could have backed down completely. He could have said, oh, well, I guess we can't do it. Too bad. But he didn't, because he's a Democrat. And when the people vote in favor of independence, terrible cough, when the people vote in favor of independence, the government has the responsibility to put that into action. And that's what he did. On October 27th, when the Catalan government again declared independence, the Spanish government threatened violence. They said that there would be deaths, there would be casualties in the street, and that's why the Catalan government again backed down and said, all right, well, we don't want to found this new republic on any kind of violence, even Spanish violence. Like, it's not enough that that we're not violent. We're going to take responsibility for the Spanish government not being violent, and so we're gonna kind of step back from the situation to let it calm down a little bit so that there's no bloodshed. I think that's pretty responsible, even maybe too responsible. So, I think the only other thing that Puigdemont could have done would be to have, given up and to said, and to say that we're not really going to have independence, and I don't see there was any reason to do that.
Do you think now that with this result showing a pro-independence majority again in the Catalan Parliament, that there will be a now recognised referendum, recognised from Spain and recognised by the Catalan government, together to have a vote on independence?
Well, that would be really smart. That would be, I think pretty much everybody would agree to that in Catalonia, even though we already had a referendum and we already won that referendum, even though we already had a plebiscite and we won that, even though we had the elections yesterday and we won those. Even still, if somebody said, Spain and Catalonia sit down and work out having a new referendum, I'm almost positive that most people in Catalonia would say, fine, we're there. But Spain wouldn't. Spain wouldn't.
So do you
Spain
think
refuses to have a referendum. So unless Europe or some exterior body forces Spain to have a referendum, I just don't see that happening.
Okay, so would you then argue then that UDI is another option then if Spain won't recognise it? Because arguably then, because neither side, nationalist nor unionist, didn't actually gain a majority if you included the neutrality vote within the election as well. So is UDI an option there, or is that a stretch too far, or do you ultimately see it being the European Union saying to Spain, actually, there needs to be a referendum here?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what the European Union is going to do. They don't seem to be very interested in becoming involved. So a UDI, that's what we did on October 27th. That was when Spain threatened to kill people in the street. So it doesn't sound like the Catalan government is really that interested in following up that kind of action. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do to move this forward. Sometimes I think it's necessary to stand up to a bully. A bully will continue to steal your lunch money until you say stop. And you don't have to beat them up to make them stop. You just have to look them straight in the eye and say, I'm not afraid of you, and you can't have my lunch money anymore. I'm sorry. And go away. I'm not going to do what you say, and I'm not afraid of your threats anymore. And it may be that Catalans need to do that peacefully, non-violently, firmly say, look, the people of Catalonia have decided that they want to be independent, and this is what we're going to do. In fact, we do have a majority. There's more people who vote for pro-independence forces than vote for unionist forces. It's not true that we don't have a majority. Yesterday, there was 47 or 48% in favor of pro-independence forces and about 44% for unionist forces. There's also a third group which refused to position themselves one way or the other. So they would be like abstentions or votes in, blank votes. They don't count. If you want to have a referendum with a yes or no answer, then have a referendum. Like I said, most people here would be perfectly willing to do that. But that doesn't seem like it's one of the options on the table.
Liz Castro, thanks very much for joining us on Broadcasting Scotland. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Exiled President of Catalonia, Carles Puigdemont, has called for talks with Spain. However, Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy has today rejected dialogue. We may see how things unfold within the next few days, or it may take until after the holidays till we know the formation of the Catalan government. You can keep up to date with the latest news on Catalonia in our website and on Twitter. Thank you for watching.